Take 11.
The author we chose to do was Higgins, and when we were looking at her background information, we found out that she started out by first writing short stories, and then she moved to writing 4-minute radio scripts, and the main reason she did that is because her husband passed away, and she was left with their 5 children, and she needed a way to have their bills paid. So she started doing that, and then her agent decided that she was good enough that she should. She published her first book, which was Where Are the Children?
Which is my book. And Where the Children got started off was because after she found out she wanted to write books, she had to have something of, like, her idea of what she needs to write them about. And she kind of grew up on the bad side of New York, and she had a bad experience where her dad passed away at an unknowing moment. And she wasn't expecting it at all, and it really shook her. And when she got married, her husband died after she had all 5 of her kids, which also was pretty traumatic for her. And she had a brief experience of losing 2 of her children, which inspired her to write Where Are the Children, because she wanted to get the point across of how it feels for parents to lose their children.
Mary Higgins Clark was called the Queen of Suspense, and she wrote 27 suspense novels, and they're all very closely related. When we were discussing our books, we realized that. And she was a worldwide bestseller. And also in her books, like they said, all our books had the fathers die because her father died.
And there's also an award for her in America, which is the Mary Higgins Clark Award. And it's where suspense novelists especially want to get this award because it's such an honor, because she is known as a glorious author.
The theme for all of our books were pretty much the same. It had to do with lying and deceit. And all throughout all of our books, there's something from the past that doesn't come up until much later, which somehow ties into the story or in what's going on. And you just find out that people they think we're closest to are actually people who were trying to hurt them.
I didn't know you wanted me to add on.
Oh, okay.
Two of her kids, Peter and Lisa, went missing one day. And the next day they came up dead. And everyone for murdering her children. And she didn't know if she did or not. She thought she did. And she didn't testify or anything. She didn't try to stand up for herself because she had no clue what was going on. 7 years later, she got remarried, and she had 2 new kids. And on the anniversary of her first children's death, her new children, Michael and Missy, went missing as well. And all through the book, she's trying to figure out why this is happening again, how this ties in with what happened 7 years ago, and they're trying to find their children.
To Columbia University, and he's 21 years old, and he had 2 college roommates that he shared his apartment with, and one day, just like out of the blue, he walked out of his apartment without saying anything to his roommates and has never been seen again. Basically, his sister, Caroline Mackenzie, takes interest in his case because her father took an interest, but he died in 9/11. So she picked up the case, and she is a lawyer, and she's 26, and she finds it strange that he calls every year on Mother's Day and basically says that he's fine, he doesn't want anyone to look for him, like, stop trying to look for him, and it's really short, and he always says he's got to go. He can never trace the call because it's made from a random number out of, like, some cell phone that he, like, basically destroys afterwards. So, she finds out that there's another case just like this of a girl named Lacey Andrews, and she calls every year her family on Mother's Day and basically says that, yeah, don't look for me, I'm fine, I'll be fine, I just need some time on my own. And she basically just goes to the superintendents of the apartment building because she finds out that Lacey Andrews had an apartment near Max, so she finds that that might be, like, connecting to each other. And they are very suspicious, and they seem worried, and she feels super uncomfortable, and they might have something to do with it.
Okay. The book I read was On the Street Where You Live, and was basically based on the ideas of reincarnation. And before Mary Higgins Clark started out this story, she looked into the history and details of reincarnation. Basically, there was a criminal defense attorney, and her name was Emily Graham, and she accepted an offer to leave Albany, where she was currently living, to work in a major law firm that was in Manhattan. And she went through a hard divorce, and she even was being pursued by an obsessive stalker. And she believed that this was the best way to get away, and so she could start new and forget about the past. Well, she ended up purchasing her ancestral home, and it was a restored Victorian house. And her family sold the house in the first place in 1892 because Emily's great-great-aunt Madeline Shapley disappeared. And then later, Emily wanted to excavate a pool in her backyard, and workers were doing that. And during this, they ended up finding a skeleton of a young woman, and the woman was later identified as Martha Lawrence. And she actually disappeared from Spring Lake 4 years before this. And within her skeletal hand, they found a skeletal finger of another woman, and the finger had a ring on it, and it ended up being a Shapley heirloom. And after this discovery, Emily felt the need that she should start investigating the history of Spring Lake, and maybe if she uncovered facts about her ancestors' murder, it will help lead to the murders that are currently happening. And the killer of Martha Lawrence decides that Emily is the perfect next victim of his madness. And the murderer sends her messages with facts about the 19th century murder that happened that only the killer would know. So the book basically is kind of making you decide if the killer is a result of an evil reincarnation or if Emily is the reincarnation of Madeline.
It was written back in the 70s, but I still think that it ties in with things today, and it's still a great read. It has all the characters of suspense that books today have, and I think I would suggest people to read it.
Yeah, my book was a really good suspense novel. There was so many people involved that, like, you, in the end result, like, you wouldn't guess that would be who did it, and that's, like, what unraveled and what happened. So it, like, keeps you entertained until the end. Like, it doesn't really give anything away. And there's so many characters, but they all, like, connect in some way. So it was really interesting.
As of mine, I think it was a really good read, and I'm glad I chose it. With it being two different murders in mine, it, like, everything connected. And once you started reading, you'd realize that more and more things connected than you thought would. And it just keeps you engaged because you never know what's going to come next because you're just surprised within every chapter. And Higgins Clark is the author to read.
She is.
Action, take 2. I was going to say who the author is. Okay. Dang it. Okay, we're just going to keep on going. We'll edit it later. Action takes 6. Or 3. Dang it. Okay.
Dang it.
She should. Dang it. She should start writing books, you know?
I think it's still really good. It's her first book she wrote.
So you want to join us?
It's a, I'm just gonna look.
Stephanie.